companies like Telemundo have been working to help shine a light on Latinas to create awareness of their impact and foster their development in the workplace and beyond. I am really honored to have you here with us today, and I'd like to ask, what is Telemundo doing as a company for diversity and inclusion in general? You're very, very, very bold and courageous, and you're ambitious, but also for Latinas specifically as talent and in general.
Wonderful. So first of all, thank you, Claudia, for the invitation. Thank you for having me, and Stacy, thanks for the shout out. But importantly, for sharing with us these important facts and really sobering numbers, right? But I'm really honored to be able to speak to this because I think as Telemundo, we do have a responsibility of representing the Latinas in our community in the right way and really helping to advance that narrative and change the way that we are perceived and how we are seen. And so to that end, we really do take that responsibility very seriously. And we go beyond celebrating Women's Month as the typical affinity month. We celebrate Latinas every day, day in and day out. And about 4 years ago, we launched this initiative called Mujeres Imparables, Unstoppable Women, because that's what we are. And it is really the platform that we use to elevate the stories of Latinas and what it is that we do both internally within our company, but also externally to portray Latinas as who we are and to help advance our stories, but also give the tools and resources and data points and polls to understand where we could go. So to that end, for example, we have a leadership development program that we work with the University of Miami for high potential Latinas at Telemundo to have the opportunities to continue to grow and flourish in their role. We work with community partners. I saw ASE here yesterday. I saw them again this morning. We partner with them to help create opportunities both internally with our Latina workforce, but also externally with their entrepreneurship program to develop programs that really help guide and bring forth resources that are needed to help the Latinas of all walks of life advance in their journey. We also take advantage of us being a media company, right, and being content creators and storytellers to help guide how that conversation moves forward. So we worked last year with the ANA, the Association of National Advertisers, to help develop a guide on how to authentically portray Latinas. Mm-hmm. And that's a guide that's really meant for general market, the general public, to really understand who we are and how to integrate us within, to your point, a brief, right? Whether it's a commercial or a story or a series or a narrative that you want to develop. How do you authentically develop the portrait of a Latina when you're really not exactly sure what are the myths that you have to avoid in order to advance that? And then lastly, I will say that we not only talk the talk, but we walk the walk. In that I'm particularly proud that our senior most leadership team is more than 50% women. It is amazing to walk into a company and see our CMO, our head of legal, our head of finance, our head of HR, all of them women. And that is what is empowering.
So I want to talk a little bit about like a sense of urgency, the why now, what's different. Maybe oversharing here, but a lot of what I found when I started getting into the space was cynicism. People like, yeah, we've been for decades, the sleeping giant is waking up for decades, it's never going to wake up. And so the Latina issue is not new. But I do think that it is important to know that we can, whether there's a sense of urgency, the why now, you've been working for decades in multiculturalism, and you nevertheless decided to zoom into the community, has led studies so that you can be really tackling this issue. So why now? What has changed? And what are the must-win battles that we need to win so that we can succeed this time around?
So the sense of urgency, Claudia, to your point, it's real because it's here, right? We heard stats yesterday and again this morning, but I'll just say Latinas are 31 million strong. We are the future, and we're only going to keep growing. So if we don't tackle this today, when will we? And it is on us as Latinas to create our own narrative in order to advance ourselves, but advance others to come with us along with this journey. And that's why it matters, and that's why it's important. That's why today we're already behind. We're behind the curve. I mean, we hear it over and over, and that's why it's so important for us to really step up and do something about it. So I have a couple more stats I wanted to share because yesterday there was just such rich content, but it also spoke of like the broader Hispanic community, right? But we also take the time to dig deep into Latina-specific stats, right? Because there is something to be said about being frustrated and just kind of like feeling like these numbers are so negative. But there's a lot of good that's also coming out that I think is very important for us to also celebrate, because I think it gives us a sense of like we are making progress and it's not all doom and gloom, right? We can keep advancing. And so more than half, 50% of Latinas age 50 and older own their own home. Nearly 50% of Latinas have a savings account. More than 50% of Latinas plan or are starting to put money away for college, whether they're their own college or whether it's for their children, right? We are the largest group of women of color in our country's workforce. Let me say that again. We are the largest group of women of color in our country's workforce. There is no bigger workforce. However, I will say that we are also the 90% of us are the CEOs of our household, meaning we are in charge, right, of our spend. We are essentially responsible for the 2 trillion spending powers of Latinos. The women make that decision of how it is that we're going to spend. So there is so much that we are responsible for and that we can advance. But one of the surveys that we also did also reflected that nearly 80% of us are not comfortable with where we are in our professional journey. We all want more. We all want to advance. And so I think this is really what the conversation is about. The sense of urgency is that we are there, we are visible. Now we are finally being seen, right? And we are hungry for more. So now is the time to really double down, tell our story, create our own narrative, and bring each other along. I cannot tell you how important that is to really have each other's back and really kind of plug and connect the dots, be the dot connectors, be the supporters of each other so that next time around, when there is a conversation in a room, it's not a what about, but that we are top of mind. We are thought of as the next generation of leaders and the next one's coming. And for those of you who have a position where you are at the senior leadership table, you are part of those conversations, speak up. This is our time. Like, let's not be shy about just staying in the background and just being quiet like we've all been taught to do, right? Speak up. Speak to the Latinidad that we have, and importantly, carry someone along with you.
So just to wrap up, and I do want to say one of the reasons why we wanted to showcase you is because you're doing great. And it matters having a leader like Cesar Conde with those bold moves saying like 50% of NBC Telemundo is going to be women. And that matters. And then trickling down and cascading it under your leadership, what you're doing for your talent, for the way in which you're portraying Latinas, for your commitments to understand us better and portray us better is great. I want companies to follow. I want companies to take bold messages so that you can be here next year, showcase here about the bold moves that you're doing, the courageous moves. So what can we do, all of us, at the individual level to make this change? And what do you like, what would you like for everybody to take away, take as takeaways?
So thanks for that, Claudia. I will say be the change that you want to see. We have to own it ourselves, right? It reminds me of our Hispanic Heritage Month campaign that we did earlier this year, and it was called "Be the Next Story Told." In other words, create your new narrative. Make it so that going forward, you not only own it, right, but you're creating the story for the next generation of leaders. Take someone along with you, not just on a one-on-one basis, but in the rooms where they're not. Talk about them. Support them. I cannot tell you how many of the ladies that I bumped into yesterday and again this morning, and they're like, oh my God, Christina, you're speaking tomorrow, go get them, right? Like that kind of support is what we need to do each and every day for every one of us. And with that comes the change in the narrative, and hopefully the brighter and better future that we will hopefully all see into tomorrow.
Be the change you want to see. Take someone with you and unite forces at least one time a year. I am a true believer that Hispanic Heritage Month is a great opportunity. Let's unify voices to make us loud, not only food, color, and music. Let's really talk about Latinos, and let's take that opportunity to make campaigns like what you have done, and take the opportunity to make Hispanic Heritage Month Pride meets Halloween. We can make that loud. So thank you so much for the opportunity, and great for that.